Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Red Room training. I'm here, myself, Jin, and with Eric. We're here to give you some tips and tricks to help you level up your Marvel Crisis Protocol game. And we're going to try to dial in on very specific topics that hopefully be very team agnostic and will give you a lot more confidence in your game-to-game plays. So, first topic, just to get through the basics, is that we're going to talk about deployment. And this is only the first section of our deployment series. So, Eric, what do you think about deployment? How important it is to your game of Marvel Crisis Protocol?
I think deployment, the way I like to think of it, is that, it's a really important part of the game. If you deploy poorly, not only will it take, your action economy in the game, it will also frustrate you throughout the game, and it can just lose you the game. But a decent deployment or perfect deployment will definitely dictate the course of the game. You will be able to figure out which models can get the objectives, which models can move and attack. These are things that will basically dictate the whole course of the game, allow you to predict what your opponent's going to do, and just lead to a better game experience.
Yeah, I would agree. So generally, we can sum it up in terms of responsiveness and readiness, right? So depending on where your guys are deployed, they can respond to different game situations as they arise. Depending if you have priority or not, that can also be a big deal as far as like where people can move and get to things. So let's go ahead and start talking about the basis and the movement. Okay, so in Marvel Crisis Protocol, there are 3 base sizes that models can be. They can either be a small 35 millimeter base, they can be a 50 millimeter base, and they can be a 65 millimeter base, I believe.
That's correct.
Yep, colloquially we like to call these small base, medium base, large base. And then there's 3 movement widgets that characters can move when they advance. There is small, medium, and long. Okay, and different models will have different combinations of these types of movements. So for instance, like Black Panther is a small base long mover. Namor is a medium base long mover. For medium base small base medium move, we have Scott. But then you have characters like Hulk, who are a large base model, and they can move small. There are some faster models of the large base, though. I think Abomination recently was a medium large base. So yeah, they're all different combinations coming out, but it's important for us to sort of talk about, hey, if you want these models to go to the midline objective, so if something's deployed across the middle of the map, how much actions does a character need to actually reach there? And because of where they're moving, do I have to deploy them across from it, or do I have a little more flexibility of like where they need to go? Okay, so we'll dive into that today.
Yep, and for simplicity's sake, we're not going to talk about special abilities like a power slide on Cable. We're just going to be talking about movements of the characters in the base size.
Yep, like I said, we want to keep this agnostic, so we just want to give you a baseline for people that haven't really thought about this yet. It's like, hey, at a baseline level, how does my base size and movement length affect my ability to reach the midline? So yeah, let's talk about it now. All right, let's talk first about our small base movers, and they're going to come in 3 different lengths. So we're first going to talk about our small base small movers, which I think have sort of the roughest time, I think, to reach the midline, and it may not be readily apparent at first. Now, the models that are small base small movers, like Crossbones, they are able to reach within one of the objective, because that's usually the distance you either need to be to secure an objective or to interact with it to pick it up. Now, do this front to back, and then that's one move action, and then a second move action front to back. Okay, so this was range 1 of the objective, so he clearly is pretty decently within the range 1 of that objective, but he's not actually going past this. So this means that you have very little wiggle room as far as like where a small base small mover needs to deploy for them to reach a midline objective. So they need to be placed more or less head on, maybe like a little bit to the left or the right, but more or less straight on. So you need to have that in consideration if you want to make sure a small base small move is going to be able to reach the midline. Okay, we're now going to go to a small base medium move. So Cyclops is able to move medium on his small base. So we'll attach this base here, front to back. Gets there no problem. And you can see within this movement, he's very easily able to get within one of the objective and go as far forward as passing the midline objective, actually. So depending on how aggressive you want to be, if he needs to set up for next turn or be in range or something, that might be something in consideration. A medium move, small baser, is able to get there well within with 2 movements. Now, something that I should note that if we have objectives like this where there's multiple across the center line, the small base medium mover actually is able to reach either of these if you're deployed from the center. So, if we were to deploy Cyclops about center, we can see that if he goes into either direction, he's able to get there. Okay. Or go to the other objective. So there. So, and within, if you sort of draw an imaginary V shape between 2 objectives, one in the center and one off to the side, this small base size with a medium move does have the option of going to either one. So something to keep in mind.
And Jin, why would you want to place between both of those objectives?
Right. So there's a possibility that there are 2 places that the enemy could go to pick up an objective. And if you commit too hard Cyclops to one side, so let's say you commit him to across the way over here, if they pick this up, he no longer has an ability to pick something up, for instance, which is important. So putting yourself like this gives you more options so that you can respond to what the opponent is doing, right? So you can decide, it's like, okay, well, I can either go here in case like they haven't picked this up yet, or they can go over here in case they haven't picked this up yet. That's just one base consideration.
Okay, and should you always then place a medium move between both objectives, or is there a circumstance where you'd want to line them up with one objective?
Ooh, yeah, that'll be more advanced sort of tactics that we can talk about later on. But for here, just for the scope of us, we just want to know, like, it's like, hey, can Scott reach to either one? And it's yes, so we just want to keep those gameplay things open for now. But yes, there will be situations which we'll cover in future topics. All right, let's talk about small base long movers. Some of my favorite models in this game. So, Black Panther is a small base model with a long move. Now, he won't be able to reach the objective in one move, but he gets pretty darn close. So just a hair off, basically. So clearly, if you're deployed across the mid point, you're able to clear that no problem. I mean, like, you can see like the amount of distance that he has to get within one of this. So easily, even on the other backside of this, no problem. Now, as far as the versatility of a long mover with a short, small base, so just like our example with Cyclops, you can deploy V-shape from here. You can easily make to both lines, no problem. However, even better, there's a larger V that they're able to sort of like play with here. So small base, long movers, if deployed more or less in the center, you have a little wiggle room left or right here, but they are able to do 2 long advances to get to either side objectives, assuming it's only range 3 from the edges. So any objective that's just range 3 from the edge here, which is basically the furthest out objectives that we have currently. Okay, so let's see. 1 move. 2 moves. No problem. So likewise, because they're equidistant, 1 move, 2 moves. Easily able to get within range. So that means that if you're deploying a small base long mover, like relatively in the center, you really are not giving away a lot of information as far as like where they're able to go if there's multiple midline objectives that you potentially want to be on at the end or to pick up something. So yeah, I think they're pretty sweet models. Like if you have that base movement profile.
Yeah, no, seriously, they give you a ton of flexibility and versatility where you can deploy.
Yeah, no, super agree. All right, now to the next base size. All right, let's talk about medium base small movers. For today, we'll have Cable as our model for this. So, small movement usually seems unimpressive given our crossbones example, but let's see what happens when we do this with Cable. Now, Cable is a larger base, so he's going to cover more real estate because you're moving from the front of the base to the back of the base, and he's a larger base. So that's our first movement. Our second movement, as you can see, very easily clears that, and even gets a little bit further up into the midline. Now, what was surprising to find out actually is that, like Cyclops' small base medium move, if you deploy Cable in sort of that V formation, we are once again able to potentially reach either objective between the middle one and one of the side ones. So let's see that in real time here. So one movement, and a second movement. Voila. Okay, and then same way. Look at that. So I was very surprised to find this out, and that means that models that with a medium base and a small move actually have more options than I initially would have thought.
Yep.
So this is great for Cable fans. He's not just committed to like one thing or the other. You do have some options before you start blasting or trying to pick up an objective. So it's good to know. So just keep in mind that like this, even though it's a small movement, medium base gives you more versatility, and you are able to reach either midline in this V shape, no problem. Let's talk about medium base, medium movers. Now, since we saw that the medium base small move was able to reach the midline, no problem, it would stand to reason that a medium base, medium move is also very able to make it to the midline, no problem, and even clear the midline. Like even as far as there. So we're easily able to go on any side of the center objective if you deploy straight on. Now, question is, will it reach either side in the V shape, just like our small base long movers? Let's see.
That's a good question.
All right, first movement. Then second movement. We're just gonna put this out here, just to make sure we get within one. Look at that. So that means as well, Iceman and other models like him, which are a medium base, medium move, assuming nothing is hampering their movement, is able to make it just within one of either side of this like larger V shape in that case. So something very useful to think about, and the amount of movement that they actually have to work with then in that case. All right, let's talk about medium base long movers, a very special combination of base size and movement. Now we have Namor here, who's a long mover on a medium base. And we can see that with one movement, they're able to get within range of an objective.
Whoa.
This is a big deal because essentially this means that for just your first action, assuming you're deployed relatively across, because you still have a ton of real estate to work with, so you could have deployed basically just off center, and you would still probably be able to make it within range one, you know? So that's really important because this sets up a specific combination of models that, you know, assuming there's no special rules or anything, you are able to just in one movement go pick up something. If it's an extract, that only costs one. And then you can still have a second move to move away. So innately, rules-wise, this is what we call a safe extract grabber, or a safe midline grabber, I should say. And these types of models are very important to think about if you see them across the board with your opponents. So currently it's Namor, Amazing Spider-Man, and Angela. And those are the ones that you would like to watch out for, and because this is something that they are able to do. So following the Bobby's example, you can easily also just move, you know, let's see over here, there's Namor. Yeah, and easily able to clear the objectives quite a bit as well, even from going from side to side as well. So yeah, so far I would say that this is, spoiler alert, this is probably the longest move that we're gonna see in the current combinations of base sizes and movement widgets available, I wanna say.
Yep. And there's something really unique that they can do is they can get to the center, whatever, extract or secure, but also afterwards with the second movement, move to a side, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, let's talk about that. So let's say this is an extract that you can actually like pick up more than one, and Namor is one of those characters that actually can get more than one power. Let's say. So with the time gem under Legacy Virus, so usually, not a lot of models can pick up two at once, but he's one of the few that can. So with the time gem, Namor can go over here, right? Get within one of this objective, pick it up, and then make our way to one of the side objectives. So the trick is that you need to make sure that you're not picking up the extract straight on, but basically you need to go from one of the sides, okay? And then with that second move, he's able to pick up the other virus, assuming he has the time gem, and so he can pay the tax to pick up a second virus.
Yep.
In this instance, there could be other crises later on, but this is our most current example of like something that Namor can do as far as picking up two stackable extracts.
Yeah. Or this could be some secure of some subtype.
Right. This could also have been like a pay to flip secure, so he could have one picked up over here and then come for here and take a test. For instance. So a lot of options. Yeah. This is definitely like the strongest profile as far as it's just a combination of just your base size and movement tool to sort of give you a lot of options here. So yeah, look out for these models because they can definitely do a lot of interesting work on the board. All right, let's talk about large bases. Our first example is going to be Hulk, who is a small mover, okay? And as Cable has surprised us early in this video, the movement from Hulk is actually going to be surprisingly long despite being a short move because of the size of his base. So Hulk, despite being a short mover, in his first walk, let's say he's deployed directly across from a midline objective, can go here, not that far away now, actually. And then if we were to move him again, from his base to the back, able to more or less clear the center objective, like in about the middle of it, I would say. So that's really good. So likewise, because of his base size, he's also able, if you're deployed in a smaller V, so center and one of the side objectives, you can easily move once, move again, get there, no problem. And the same way the other way. Now, as far as like trying to have him move like the longer way, unfortunately, he's just going to be just short, I think. So he's deployed across the center here, right? So we're going to head directly towards that side objective. So won't be able to quite make it. He'll need some sort of extra help to be able to make it to a midline that is further away, assuming he starts the middle and needs to go to a further out objective in that case. But still, not bad, right, for a small mover, large base?
Yeah, it covers a lot of distance. Now, Jin, we've talked about a lot of models starting in the midline here, or in the middle of two objectives to give you flexibility. Mm-hmm. Is there ever a situation where the timing of when you deploy your model is important? Like, should you just place your model, like first model here, and just show your opponent to give you more flexibility, or is there any circumstance where you might want to wait?
Oh, yeah, so that's another topic that I would like to discuss down the road, and that's going to be models that sort of have a job set in mind, right? And they're going to just sort of deploy where they're going to deploy, and you're not going to give away any new information to your opponent. Now, there's also going to be models that it's going to be very important where they place because they are either looking for a specific matchup or an objective to get, or they're trying to avoid a specific matchup or something they're trying to do. So we can talk about that in a future video, but yes, it's a good question, and there obviously are a lot of circumstances that can sort of change your deployment. The last current combination of base size and movement is currently large bases with medium moves. So far, it's just, at the time of recording, Cosmic Ghost Rider and Abomination. I believe there's the only two models that sort of have that profile. Oh, you know what? Apocalypse, I think, as well.
You're right.
Yep. So those three models, maybe more down the road, we'll see, have the ability to, and we're just going to proxy Hulk here and sort of just give you an illustration of what that looks like. Oh, Malekith, that's right, the Terror.
Famously.
Yes. So several models are able to have that combination of base size and profile for movement. So suppose, let's say, Hulk was Malekith. All right, move once there, but I think, unfortunately, that is going to be just shy of the movement there. So we're not going to be within 1, unfortunately. So that does mean that the medium-based long movers are still going to move slightly further than a large-based medium move in that case. Still, very respectable amount of distance, I would say. So yeah, 2 movements, easily able to clear the objective, on the other side if they need to. So let's see how they are if they needed to go to the point in the middle and go to a side objective. So I would say Abomination would be pretty popular for things like this at the moment. So let's see. Assuming that small moves here, first one, second one, able to move there. Yep, no problem. The next side note that I want to mention are F extract shapes. So this is going to be your Spider Infected and also Struggle for the Cube. So typically it's going to be a 5 extract formation. So you will have these 5 objectives. There's a center one, of course, that's one in the center. But there's also some ones in the back that usually you would think are pretty safe, but you should consider if the opponent or yourself have the ability to sort of dive for them in that case. We'll go through the models very quickly that are able to do this depending on their initial deployment. So starting with our small basers, a long mover small base is able to reach them within 2 movements. So we'll have Black Panther here. Okay, let's say we're trying to reach this F extract here if this was a Spider Infected. So, move, and move. So yeah, surprising amount of coverage, I'd say. So if you, especially since some characters that are small base long movers are actually quite tanky. So if you feel very confident in their survival rate, that might be a way that you can go for an extract lead by diving an opponent's objective. Now, next one we want to talk about is the medium base, medium move. Now, these characters won't be able to make it there by starting in the center, as we can illustrate here, because they're just going to be a little bit short. Yep. It's a little bit short. But if you were to deploy them across the way, so straight onward, all right, so let's say if we want to try to get Iceman to dive this point here. Other characters like Beast are also great at this as well, so you just look at the defensive profiles of the models. So let's see, that's an advance. And another advance. And look at that, you're right there, able to grab that objective. So that's it for the medium base medium mover. Now, once again, our privileged medium base long movers. So since they're able to reach here very easily, it is not hard for you to imagine that, since the long mover on a small base is able to make it, these guys are perfectly okay to able to dive these points, even making it to well inside the extract profile itself. So, easy. Now, these guys, we're going to talk about the 65 millimeter bases. So in this example, we already tested it. Hulk is not able to make it with that, but let's say he was Abomination and who is able to move medium on a large base. So assuming this is Abomination, for those out there, if we were to move medium here, and then move medium again, we are there.
Wow.
Yep. So if you want to dive these extracts with a medium-based medium move, just make sure you deploy them across the way, more or less. The other 3 profiles we talked about, so your long mover and medium base, your long mover small base, are able to start sort of in the center and still able to V-shape up there. Characters like Abomination that are 65 millimeter large bases with medium moves are also able to do the same thing as well. So yeah, I hope that sort of demystifies like how it is to move to a midline objective and like where you kind of need to be, and sort of like now that you're starting to see like it's like, okay, I don't necessarily have to deploy everything straight onward. We actually have some versatility of like where to put the model initially and set us up for some success. All right, let's have some quick terrain callouts because sometimes that might be able to change your plans a little bit. So our first example here, we have the size 3 building that's in the way of this midline objective. We have Black Panther, who's a long mover, but does not have wall crawler or flight or anything to be able to bypass the height of that terrain since he's only a size 2. Now, we can try to move Black Panther this way, but now we can't actually move in a way that gets us to the objective in a clean manner, unfortunately. So unfortunately, if you see something like this sort of in the way, sort of like closing off that vector, you should really consider not having him go there in that case, or deploying him in a way that maybe something else should be more responsive. Now, that is to say that if he was a character with wall crawler, for instance, Spider Woman, would be able to clear that no problem. So like if you have characters that do have a way to ignore heights of obstacles in between them, the plane doesn't really change. But if you have someone that does have a affection by like the height of the terrain, you should consider that when deploying in that case. Now, another example that we need to talk about is that let's say you have Namor, and for whatever reason, there is a piece of terrain that's in the center there. This would not be a great deployment for Namor, unfortunately, because sometimes terrain will not let his base finish the movement on top of it. So we see this dumpster's in the way. It cannot accommodate his base size, nor will he be able to land on this correctly. So in either instance, he's kind of cut off from moving once to get that objective. Okay. Now, something like this might be a great time to actually have Panther instead go on there, because we can see that this terrain is actually nearby an objective, and you can go move twice to go on this. And still be within range 1. Right? Pick it up, and now if it's a terrain that gives you cover, you now are on a piece of cover as well, which might be a way you can think about, well, okay, I can grab something midline, I'll be exposed to fire, but at least I'll have some sort of safety blanket, sort of help stay off the damage incoming. So that's something that we should consider for terrain. So yeah, keep in mind the height of your characters, if they have any movement abilities to sort of bypass any terrain that's in the way, to make sure that you're able to reach the objective that you need to grab in that case. All right, everybody, that is going to be the end of our first segment of our deployment section, but there's going to be more deployment topics incoming. So the next video that I want to cover is going to be about deploying with priority or without priority, and also counter deployment. When you're deploying models, what sort of matchups you're looking for, and where does terrain factor in for characters that either have terrain throws or don't have terrain throws. So look for that and more in upcoming videos. But for now, I just want to say thank you again to Baron of Dice for providing great dice for all of us to use. You can find different products and features and different lines of dice at baronofdice.com. Also, thank you again to Iwargame.net for great Marvel Crisis Protocol maps. Always happy to play on these pre-marked maps, so go check them out at iwargame.net. Eric, thank you for sitting with me through this time. I hope this was informative for you.
I learned a ton, yeah. And I'm excited that we're starting this series up.
Yeah. So we would like to get some feedback on Red Room training, so please let us know if this was helpful. Do you want us to go even more longer videos? Because I want to keep this pretty self-contained so that it's easier for people to sort of shuffle through different videos. But if you like a change in the format, let us know and what you think of this, and also what topics you want this to be covered, Feedback is always appreciated. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everybody.